Welcome to the Woman's Hustle, Thrills and Spills of Entrepreneurship, where we keep it real about what it takes to build, grow, and thrive. You'll hear the unfiltered journeys of women entrepreneurs from everywhere. This road ain't always pretty. From battling self-doubt to juggling responsibilities and facing the pressures to have it all figured out, this hustle can be pretty heavy. That's why this space exists, to fuel you with the motivation, drop strategic gems on the topics that matter most, and remind you you are not in this alone. This is the Woman's Hustle. Hey y'all, welcome back to the Woman's Hustle, Thrills and Spills of Entrepreneurship. It's your girl, Kisha. Welcome back to another dope session. Listen, before we get started, you know what I'm going to ask, right? If you have not already, make sure you have subscribed to the Upgraded Mindsets channel here on YouTube. If you are listening to the Woman's Hustle, then make sure you have favorited it so you're not missing these amazing episodes with these amazing guests. Guess what? Today is going to be no different. I'm super excited to chat with this beautiful queen today. And I'm going to allow the honor of letting her introduce herself. Hello, hello.
Hello. I'm so excited that we're doing this. We had such fun on our prep call. I'm Katrina Purcell. I am based in Brooklyn, New York, which as of today is sunny. We'll see how long that lasts. I am a growth operations consultant based in Brooklyn, New York, and I help people grow their companies, but also their lives.
Yes, I love it. You know, when I hear the word growth, you already know I'm jumping all on that because y'all know I pound that in your head enough. So guess what? If that's what you want to hear again in this episode, then that's exactly what you're going to get. So sit down, get a notebook, be ready to take down some tips because me and Katrina is about to drop some gems. So thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited.
Absolutely. So let's dive into a little about your backstory a little bit. And I'm just kind of curious, like what made you realize that you had a gift for the operational side of things versus like traditional leadership? Because, you know, we talk about leadership and things like that when we're stepping into those things, but you kind of have a gift for that operational side of things. What got you started in that?
Well, I'm an oldest daughter and the oldest cousin on both sides of my family. And so I think from an early age, it was my job to make things happen, right? All from like taking little cousins and making sure they were participating that they were supposed to in all the weddings, right? All the aunts and uncles getting married. You know, I think my dad really wanted me to be an engineer. I really wanted to be a child advocate lawyer. What do we know when we're little? We don't really know. I ended up going into media because I thought it'd be a lot of fun. And I had a few bosses who said, you're really good at project managing. You're really good at making things happen. You're really good at taking stuff that makes no sense and putting it all together. And I said, is that a job? Who knew? Okay, great.
Right.
And so that began sort of this shift to like making stuff happen. And it turns out that there's actually a shortage of people in the world who can make things happen. There's no shortage of ideas. There's no shortage of people who want to do big things, but there's a shortage of people who actually put together the plan, execute on the plan, and drive towards those results. And so I think I just started to realize, again, as like an oldest daughter, A+ student mentality, like people really like it when things happen, right? You get a lot of praise. There's a lot of excitement. And so even if you're in the background making it happen and you're not the face of it, it's still this great feeling of like, I made that come to fruition.
I love that. I love it. I love it. And it's true. You have that sense of fulfillment. I love it. And I want to ask you, like, what was the moment that kind of pushed you to like really launch your own consultancy? Because like after you spent those years kind of, you know, showing up and being in the back end and stuff, like what was that moment or that mess? Because, you know, I'm pretty sure there might have been a little mess involved as well.
Yeah, there was definitely some. So I actually was never someone who grew up thinking I'm going to start my own business someday. You know, both my parents worked for the government, had, you know, long careers with the government. I didn't come from a family. I mean, my dad did have two brothers who had their own company, but I never thought to myself like, oh, entrepreneurship, that's going to be me. I think partially because I'm not the ideas person. And so I always used to say, I wish one of my friends would come up with a good idea because I will go work for them and I will make it happen. But I don't have an idea. And I was working for a startup and I really was misaligned with the founder. And I was really unhappy. And I know I was really unhappy because my husband said, every day you come home from work and you're miserable and you're making everyone in this house miserable and we're all tired of it. Oh, wow. And I said, well, what are you saying? And he said, I think you should start your own company. And I said, well, doing what? You know? And he said, well, think about it. Just think about it. And so I thought about it a lot and I said, I just don't have an idea. And he goes, no, but you help other people with their ideas. Can't that be the company? And I said, can it? And I started just putting it out there. And it turned out that yes, it can. There are so many people who have a great idea, but need someone to help them figure out how they get from the big idea to the actual company and what does that look like. And it's everything from big to small, right? So I work with local small businesses, but I also work with, startups that are building products and have engineering teams. And it's all about taking that big vision and making it executable.
Ooh, listen. I'm like, goodness gracious, like it's facts. Like I never thought if you'd have asked me in 2019 if I was going to be starting a business or businesses, I'd have been like, yeah, no, not happening, not happening. But I
And I
guess,
feel like people need to hear that though, because people are always like, I wanted to be an entrepreneur from the time I was a kid. I always was entrepreneurial. Like you don't have to be.
I
You
was
can
not
kind of fall into this and still be
exactly,
successful. It doesn't have to be
exactly.
your lifelong dream to be an entrepreneur.
Yeah. So I love that you said that. So I want to talk to you about the reality, really the raw realities of entrepreneurship. Like you said in our, chat earlier before, like we talked about some of these things. But I'm just curious, like you've seen like the inside of like IPOs, like fundraisers, you kind of work with all of those and like scaling startups. What's one of the ugly truths that you could share about growth that most founders, especially us ladies, because ladies, it's all about us. What are some of the things that they're not prepared for?
So sometimes the company will outgrow you.
Mm.
Sometimes you will start something that's actually bigger than you.
Oof.
And founders tend to have trouble understanding that and seeing that and realizing when is it time to let the idea fly the nest? When is it time to bring in someone else to lead? I do find that women are actually better at that self-realization, but that's one of them. The
Ooh.
other one is that growth is messy and growth requires risk. So if you want to play it safe, and this is life and company, right? If you
Period.
want to
Tell them
play
how
it
both.
if
Absolutely.
you want to play it safe, you're never actually going to get out of your comfort zone and you're never going to grow. Right. So
Man.
if you just think about going to the gym, if you always lift the same amount of weight for the same amount of reps, your muscles are never going to hurt, but they're also never actually going to get stronger. And that's basically the same as a company. It's the same as your life. If you're not learning new things, if you're not out there pushing yourself, if you're not trying that thing that scares you, you're never actually going to grow. And so people talk about wanting to grow, but then they don't want to do the things required to grow, which is taking risks, which is
Ooh.
learning new things, which is pushing people beyond their limits, right? And then knowing when to pull back if it's too much.
Absolutely.
But if you don't get to that point of being uncomfortable, you're never going to get past it.
And I think that that's one of the things that we really struggle with as women because we feel like society tells us we're supposed to stay in this like set place, right?
Yeah.
Especially from life's perspective, as mothers, as wives, as, daughters and PTO moms and things like that. Like we feel like we're supposed to stay in this stuck place. And then when there's a chance for us to grow, to scale on whatever level, then we feel like we're not supposed to take it because now we're doing something against what the expectations are supposed to be. But whose expectations are you really supposed to be honoring? Yours, right? And if
Yep.
you don't know what that is, then you owe it to yourself to put the work in to figure that out. So if it's me becoming an entrepreneur in 2020 after 2019, I'd have laughed in your face if you'd asked. I had to put in the action to make that happen.
Yep.
Was I nervous about it? Yes. Was I scared? Yes. Was there self-doubt, imposter syndrome, all of those things or play a factor. And honestly, some of them still do to this doggone day. Right. And that's why it's so important. But growth is required on a personal level, professional level, and especially as a business owner, you don't want to stay in the same spot.
Hmm.
That's just so critical for us to understand. And also too, making sure that you're aligned with the things that you're trying to find. And that involves that level of self-discovery. What is it that you want to do? What is it that you thought about doing maybe before you had kids that you stopped because you put your life on hold for your family? Totally understandable. But now the kids are a little older, why are you still trying to stay stuck in that one spot?
Yeah,
So
because
I
we
think
tend to be risk adverse, right? Because we feel like everyone is then taking on our risk. We want to be comfortable. We want to kind of just keep everything because things are always coming at us, right? So,
yes.
our niece that lives with us is in middle school. So that's just every day is new, right? It's always new things. And so we think to ourselves, like, can I really build the business if every day I'm getting all these things coming in? You can. You just have to figure out what that looks like for you.
Absolutely.
And it might not be a perfect balance. It might mean that one quarter is very focused on school and one quarter is very focused on the business. Or maybe it's 1 month, or maybe you and your husband are switching off, or you and your partner are transferring who's responsible for which things. But the main point that I love is that it's not about being fearless. It's about being scared and doing it anyway.
Doing it anyway, period. Doing it anyway. We are always going to have a level of fear about something. We're fearful when we become a mother, right? We're fearful when we go and have babies. You know what I'm saying? Whether we're having it naturally or we're getting, cesareans or things like that. There's always a level of fear that we have to embrace and work through anyway. So if that's the case, then you can't tell me that you're not doing it because you're scared.
Exactly.
You're scared when you step into a new job. If you're going in, of course, staying in corporate America, you're scared when you start that new job. And I tell my clients this, listen, you talk about you don't know how to make adjustments. If you're starting a brand new job, you may have the experience, you may have the degree and stuff to be able to get into that position, but you are going into that job not knowing exactly what you're going to be doing. It's the same thing,
Well, and we think there's a belief that corporate is stable.
Yeah.
Well, it's stable until they decide they don't need you anymore.
Come on, because that was me.
And so the thing with entrepreneurship is you have more control. Is it crazy? Yes. Is every day different? Is it a roller coaster where, like, some days you think to yourself, what in the world was I thinking? Some days you're crying because you're frustrated. Some days you're crying because you're so happy. Like, you don't know. It's just going to be, it's going to be a roller coaster, but you have control.
Yeah.
Right. And I think corporate, we always think, oh, and let me tell you, is it nice to have that paycheck every 2 weeks? Sure.
Of
right.
course.
And when you first launch your business and you realize that paycheck isn't coming every 2 weeks, you're like, what?
Hold on now. Wait a minute.
I got to do what now? When is the money coming?
Right.
It's just going out. Is it coming back in? That's stressful. It is stressful, but you are relying on yourself. And if the one lesson you should have learned over the course of your lifetime is the one person you can rely on, should be yourself.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And so it's just taking control in your own hands. And look, I know most of us are control freaks. So take that control where you can get it.
I'm glad you said that, because I want to dive into this question, because it is. We feel the pressure to want to do it all, right? That control factor. I'm still struggling with that, right? I'm still struggling with the control. Now, I've delegated a lot more here in the last 2 years. So I'm proud of myself for that. But I still want to kind of have control of some things. But we also feel like there's a societal pressure for us to do it all as well. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And when it comes to starting a business, scaling it, or doing whatever, we have that mindset of we got to do it all before we actually reach out for help. What do you think is the real cost of waiting too long to build that operational?
Well, your mental health. B, the opportunities that you could be making available for others. I was just talking with a new founder earlier today who said, I had a disaster happen this weekend. And I said, why didn't you call? And she goes, I really should have, but I just didn't. I said, well, why not? What brought, I really wanted to handle it on my own. I said, but did you? Did it go okay? No, it didn't. Right. And so part of the goal is to create this ecosystem around you, people you can rely on, people you can count on. Right. So it's not about doing it all alone. It's about being successful. And we have to disassociate success from ourselves, because success for the business might not look the same as success to you personally. Right. And so you have to understand what that means. And making the business successful has to start to mean more than being successful on your own. Your success will come from the business being successful. And that's when you have to start firing yourself. And so really what you have to say, so I am terrible at social media, horrible. And I said, well, I'm actually really hurting myself here, right? I have my own personal social. The dog has her own personal social. But for the business, what am I doing? I need someone who can actually understand, and in this case, it's for my podcast, but understand the podcast, understand Instagram's algorithm, God knows what they're changing this week, right? And be able to focus on that. Not me.
I'm glad you're not by myself with that one.
Not me. Because Lord knows I tried to download CapCut and then I was like, I don't know what is no. No. So fire yourself
Yeah.
from anything where it's not in your zone of genius. Right. And so there's a book, it's called Buy Back Your Time. I want to say it's by Dan Martell. And it's essentially like, do an audit of your day. Where are you spending your time? Could you pay someone less per hour to do that? Then you're technically paying yourself.
Yeah. Oh my God. And I think I actually read that book too. So it's facts. And
It's one of those you got to go back to because the
I
first
do.
time you read it, you're like, ah, and then the second time you're like, oh,
Oh, right.
he's writing about me.
Right. Where did he find me at? Oh my God. Yes, that is facts. I love what you said, Katrina, because it is facts. And I had to have this mindset shift with myself because I do a lot of my social media stuff, but it's just a lot of like my short form clips from the podcast.
Mhm.
But it's also like me talking about like day-to-day activity, the business, the personal side of things, all of those things. I'm good at it. But I had for a while, I was like, oh my God, I hate social media. I can't stand it. I can't stand it. And what was happening is I wasn't posting as much anymore because I had put it in my head that I did not like social media. But I used to do social media management a few years ago within the business for other people. And I relinquished that because it was just something that as I was scaling,
Yep.
it just wasn't, you know what I'm saying? I let it go. But I also had to have a real conversation with myself because I will be sitting in my car and I will do like some short form content. So it's like I'm doing the content. So now I really just need to put a title on it and move about my day. I was overcomplicating it. So I had to have that mindset shift with myself to say, you know what? It's not that I don't like social media. I don't like the things that are on social media. Now, let me be very clear about that. I don't. However, when it comes to my content, I can't let that stop me from posting the content that I make in my car and take that extra 2 minutes, add a title on it, and keep it pushing. I was over pushing it. I was trying to do way too much. So understanding that and just scaling things down, simplifying, because that's actually my word of the year. Simplicity is
Ooh, I
my
love
word
that.
of the year. So having that talk with myself, that accountability chat, like, girl, you trying to do too much. Sit down.
Yeah.
But I tell you what I have delegated, the YouTube stuff. I'm actually in the process now of getting people to help on that because although I can make the content, I don't like editing. I don't like sharing. I don't like the SEO side of things. Those are the things that I don't want to do.
Yep.
So I love that you said fire yourself in those areas that you don't like it, but I also like that you said audit the things that you do care for, the things that can continue that's not causing a mental stress bucket
Yes.
all in your head, and that's what really it is. Cause like, that's a good one. I love that. So, and we're going to make sure we put the link to that book that she's talking about in the show notes too. So you guys can check that out. Cause I think it's definitely a good read as well. Now, I want to talk about a little bit about your signature thing. You've got something that we call the Anti-Burnout Firewall. So I
Yeah.
want to share with us, a little bit about that, where it came from, what was the personal experience that made you realize that founders and like startup business owners needed that.
So I'm gonna just say one sentence. Hustle is not a business model.
Ooh.
Right? So people think, well, I'm just gonna hustle. I'm a hustler. I'm hustling. Great. Cool. In what direction and how?
Hey.
Right? It's not a business model. And so we burn ourselves out. We burn ourselves out, right? And so part of my method is really understanding and doing that inventory of everything you've been working on, right? What are you doing in the business? What are you doing for the business? What's bringing in money versus what's spending money? And then start to understand, A, what do you like doing? Because sometimes people realize they actually don't want to be the CEO.
Yeah.
They don't like it. That's actually not the things that they love to do are more like product focused or more consumer focused or more marketing focused. They don't actually want to be the CEO, but the whole reason they started a company was so they could have the CEO title,
Yeah.
right? And so it's like, do we want the title? Do we want the role? Right? And then let's start figuring out what that looks like. Because in reality, when we get honest with ourselves, and then this is when I feel like a therapist, but when you get honest with yourself, right, about what you like to do, where you're
Yeah.
really spending your time, and how much of it is on stuff you don't even want to be doing, how much of it is just to be busy. Because the thing is, we quit our corporate jobs because we think, I'll control my time. And then we start a company and we spend all our time.
All
And
our
then
time.
we're like, where did all that time go? Where did it go? Right? And if you're not sitting down and giving yourself a performance review, sitting down and thinking about, right? So yes, were those things we all hated about corporate? They are, but they helped you to understand what were your goals for the 6 months and did you meet them, right? And how are things going? And if you're never doing those tiny little check-ins with yourself, you're not holding yourself accountable to you on how you're spending your time and where you're spending your time. And that's how you burn out, because you think, I'll just keep hustling, right? I'll just keep hustling until next quarter. And then guess what? Then it's next quarter and then it's next quarter. And it just keeps going. And so if we start to build sustainable infrastructure around you, the things that are being done, of things that need to happen, I know everyone hates standard operating procedures, but I fully believe that they are the way to actually, number one, stop burnout, but number two, actually create more innovation, which is the opposite of what people think. But they truly do allow you to then have the creative space to think of other things.
Man, I love it. You said a word a little bit ago, and that word is actually something that I utilize within my company, and that's the word ecosystem. Like really understanding what your ecosystem is. A lot of people feel like, oh, I know I have an idea, now I'm going to start the business. But what are you doing to start it? Are you now just because you're making posts on social media, you think you have a business? I think we've seen a lot of that, in the pandemic era, where a lot of people were just starting businesses because, they didn't have anything else to do. We were on lockdown. We weren't able to,
We're all bored.
do all those things. Yeah, so it was like, oh, I'll start a business. And I just celebrated 5 years with my women's business, my business hub, UPM Business Suites. And it's like, half of small businesses don't make it to year 5. So it was just a blessing to be able to celebrate that. But a lot of women don't have, or a lot of businesses period didn't have the ecosystems set up, understanding the admin side of things, the operational side of things, the transitional side of things, the scaling type of things. All of those things are the ecosystem. And there are a lot of women or business owners period that lack at least 3 of those 4.
Yep.
They might have be strong in one, but the other 3 they have no idea about, and they think that one that they're strong in is going to carry them through to that threshold of scaling, and that's just where they fall short and they
That's
fold
where you
and they
burn out.
fold. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's facts. I try to adhere to a schedule. I go by the minutes, not the hours. There's 1,440 minutes in a day. So anybody that tells me that they don't have time to do something, it is cap. You definitely have time to do it. You just have to make the time to do that.
Exactly.
So I do not hustle like that. Don't let the
Yeah.
podcast
So
name
the
fool
thing is,
you.
you need hustle, right? You
You
need
do
hustle,
need it.
but it
You do
cannot
need it.
be your business model.
Exactly.
You need a real
Exactly.
business model.
I'm not burning out hustling. I'll say that. I'll
There
leave
you
it like
go.
that, y'all.
Yes,
There you go.
exactly.
Yeah. So as we get ready to start wrapping up here, because I have totally loved this conversation. I knew that you were just going to bring the raw reality, and that's exactly what you did. So thank you for that. But I just want to ask this final little question here. How do you think that women founders can build companies that scale, but are still staying aligned with their values? Because we talk about that, as far as making sure that we're aligned with those things. So what would you suggest?
So I think part of it is understanding what your values actually are.
That
Right.
part.
So they shouldn't just be some platitude that goes on the wall. They should be something that your entire company is built around. How you onboard your team, how your team treats your customers, how you interact with your customers. All of it should come back to those values. So I think that's number one. Number two is bootstrap. Because when you start taking in outside funding, that's when other people get a say in what you're doing. And I think this is why we're seeing a lot more companies bootstrapping, because they are now understanding that drive for VC funding maybe means that you don't have as much control. And so one of the brands that I really love, it's called Little Words Project. And I talked to the CEO, and she spent the first 10 years bootstrapped, right? She started in her parents' basement, and I think she even had a product. So she had to spend money to get that product. And there's so much that you can do to stay mission and vision aligned when you're investing the profits back into the business. And getting yourself profitable means paying attention to your operations, because you can't just outsell the broken system, right? You have to understand that your revenue, even if it keeps going up, but your operations costs just also go up exponentially. You're never going to get there. So running a cash efficient business that can then put revenue back into the business allows you more control, allows you to stay mission and vision aligned, and can allow you to scale. Maybe not as fast as you want,
Mhm.
But that's where that is that your value?
Yeah.
Is your value to do it as fast as possible, or is your value to create a sustainable business? Right.
Okay.
And so it's really understanding what are those values, not just words on a paper, but what do they truly mean?
Yep. I love it. What's going on with you for the rest of 2026?
Oh, okay. So we're on season 3 of the Managed Chaos podcast. And so definitely blowing that out of the water, trying to get our listenership up, trying to reach all the small business owners that are looking for help on how to scale and grow. So that's number 1. Number 2 is just client work. We're building the client roster, probably hiring a junior project manager to help with some of the work that's come in. And then we're moving into a new house in Brooklyn. So I'm really
Woo-hoo!
excited about that. So that's going to be a lot of new furniture shopping because we're moving from an apartment to a
Absolutely.
house.
I love it. Well, congratulations. I think it's, hey, shopping, shopping.
That's what my mom said this morning. You should have seen her. She's like, well, don't tell the husband.
Hey, we won't tell them anything that they won't damage anything. We'll be okay with that. I love it. You are just really like stepping in and scaling in your way, personally, but also professionally. I really enjoy what it is that you're doing. Best of luck with the podcast. And season 3, that is great because we know podcasters don't go past season 1 or 2, or they don't understand that that is also a business too.
It
People don't realize
is.
podcasting is not just us getting on mics and talking. It's the business behind that. So super excited for you. Congratulations on that. Congratulations on the move. Just congratulations on continuing growth, Katrina. I think that that's awesome. And I'm super happy and proud of you, girl.
Thank you.
Let the listeners know where they can find you at socials, website, all that good stuff.
Yeah, so I'm definitely on LinkedIn. On Instagram, we are the Managed Chaos Podcast. So you can find me there. I'm also on YouTube, Managed Chaos Podcast as well. And then I write on Substack under Managed Chaos Podcast.
Awesome. Awesome. And we will make
In
sure
all
that
the
we've got
places.
some notes. Yes, we will make sure that the notes are in the show notes are there for you guys to be able to check her out, check out the podcast, check out the YouTube channel, follow her on LinkedIn, Instagram, all that good stuff. It has been so much fun. Thank
This
you
has been
so,
so
so much.
fun. Thank you
So
so
much.
much for having me. I cannot wait to hear from a listener who does something risky.
Absolutely. Let them know. Risk is reward, baby. I love it.
Yes.
Listen, you guys, at the end of the day, your journey is your journey. But I also want you to understand that this journey of entrepreneurship is no overnight task. There are no easy days. Things can get easier, but understand staying comfortable is staying stagnant. All right. So before we get out of here, share this with a fellow entrepreneur. Listen, women empower women. Share this episode with a woman who you know is trying to grow and scale in her business, in her brand. And make sure you let her know that you sent it out of love. All right. Make sure you have subscribed to the channel. I appreciate y'all so much for tuning in.